Hey, everybody. Good evening. I'm Seth Eisenberg. This is a Conservative Corner Sunday night. So thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Weekend's almost over, so I hope you had a good one. And back to the grind tomorrow for probably everyone that watches this. Just got to hit lotto. That's all we got to do. We don't have to work another day in our life, but got to be in it to win it. So I have a special guest today. It's Sheriff Mack. As you all know, my father's a retired police officer, so I have nothing but respect for law enforcement. I mean, growing up, I remember being at his substation or all his guys being over here for cookouts. So I have nothing but good memories of being around Leo. I love them. They're good guys and women. They do a hard job, and they don't get as much respect as they should. And that's horrible. They do a job that not everybody can do. So nothing but respect for them. So we're going to talk with him and have some questions and just have a conversation. And then we'll go from there. So let me get him on here. Sheriff, how you doing?
Hi, Seth. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, I'm more than honored to have you. So the pleasure's mine. So why don't you go ahead and in case people have been living under a rock or in the woods and don't have electricity, tell everybody who you are and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, thanks. My nom de guerre or nom de plume is Sheriff Mack. My name's Richard Mack, and I was the sheriff of Graham County, Arizona for 8 years. That's southeast Arizona, but that was also over 25 years ago. I left there when I was about 44, 45, and since then I've written 8 books. 2 are out of print, so I think I have 6 of them on my website. I've written 1 novel by the name of The Naked Spy, and everybody should get it. It's on my website, but there's nothing lewd about it. It's not a nasty book or anything, but it's an amazing spy thriller. The rest of my books are academic about the Second Amendment and about government and the proper role of government and the duties of the sheriff, the county sheriff, America's last hope. And my best book is only a tiny little pocket-sized version of my Supreme Court case. And that brings me in to the only reason you and I are speaking right now. I know you think I'm a wonderful guy and I should be on your show, but the reason is because I became the first sheriff in American history to launch a major lawsuit against the federal government and take it all the way to the United States Supreme Court and win. Now, 6 other sheriffs joined me in the lawsuit, and I'll be eternally grateful for that, because they actually made it happen that we went to the Supreme Court. And so Sheriff Jay Prince and myself ended up at the Supreme Court together. He was from Montana, myself from Arizona. And our case was actually consolidated at the Ninth Circuit, where the federal government appealed his victory and mine at the district court. They appealed it at the Ninth Circuit. And of course, what good ever comes out of the Ninth Circuit? We lost, we got overturned, but Sheriff Romero and Sheriff Coog in the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans, they won. And so that pretty much guaranteed us a trip to the Supreme Court because there was a conflicting ruling on the exact same case. And so indeed, Sheriff Prince and I ended at the Supreme Court in December of 1996. This was a fight against the Brady bill. It was named for James Brady, who was hit during the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan in March of 1981. So this is quite a historical bill and law, and we beat it back. It was gun control law with Brady's name on it. And the key component here, Seth, is you're not going to believe this. The Brady bill contained a provision that threatened to arrest us if we failed to comply.
Wow.
If we didn't just follow the king or the authority, the monarchy in Washington, D.C., then they told us they could come and arrest us.
Wow.
and fine us. And I find that startling because only 7 of us stood against this and fought it. Now, I know there was a few sheriffs who just refused to do it and didn't say anything about it.
Right.
But they could have been arrested. And I certainly could have been arrested. Prince could have been arrested. But for them to threaten that was absolute balderdash nonsense, just absurd arrogance, that they can just commandeer the office of a constitutionally elected sheriff who they cannot fire, they
Right.
can't hire, and they can't tell me what to do. The federal government cannot tell state officials in your state, not your governor, not the dog catcher. I don't care who it is. They have
Right.
no jurisdictional authority to tell us to do anything. And that's what we won on. And folks, I'm telling you right now, you need to get these books, pass them around, order them off my website. They cost like $2 each. You can get 3 for $5. So it's not like I'm trying to make a bundle here, because the markup is like 22 cents. So get these and pass them around, because this is the most miraculous and powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of our country. And most of you have never even heard about it, because the government has withheld it from you. They don't want you to know this. It was written by Justice Scalia, and it is one of the most powerful cases in American history. And it is by far the most powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of America. And I'm proud to say I was the one that started it all. And I'll even tell my little joke real quick. We sued the Clintons, we beat them, and we lived to tell about it.
Don't tempt fate.
Yeah. So, but the day's not over yet, so you never know with them.
That's true. You got to watch out. Now, here's a question that's probably doesn't even need to be asked, because everybody already knows. But why do you think the federal government did that? Why do you think they put that in? They made that law or tried to pass it. What do you think was behind it?
The subterfuge behind it is it was a test for all the sheriffs in the country. They wanted to see how many sheriffs would go along. They don't need us. You know, it's ridiculous for them to,
Right.
Oh, my goodness, we don't have enough federal employees. We're going to have to find somebody else to enforce this. Let's make the sheriff do it. You know, and that's absurd. They could have done it with all the BATF, the FBI, or they could add more bureaucrats or create a new bureaucracy. They love that.
Oh, yeah, they do.
But I believe it was a test for every sheriff in this country to see how many would go along. And we flunked it bad.
I was going to say, were there sheriffs that were kind of like behind the scene going, yeah, we really support you, but we're not going to get involved? Or what there was what there was?
There was a few of those. I got a call from a few sheriffs saying that they were with us, but they weren't going to do it. One was a Sheriff Nixon from Nebraska. That's all, the only one I remember. But there was a few. I'd see him around where I'm giving speeches all across the country. He said, "Hey, you know what? I'm not suing, but I'm not doing it either." I said, really, that's what we should have all done. We should have all told the federal government, get lost. We're not doing it. You want to come arrest us? Go ahead.
In that same kind of vein, if you had the grade, and I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the bus, I'm not asking to do any of that, but with that in mind, during COVID, do you think the sheriffs of the country passed that, or do you think they kind of folded under and did what they were told to do in general?
It was about 50-50.
Okay.
And I've got stories about that. I got a huge story about that. But there was at least that I could document that I counted. There was over 550 sheriffs in America. That's about 1/6.
Okay.
Okay. There was about 550 sheriffs that refused to do anything to go along with any of the COVID mandates. But my favorite story is the tale of two sheriffs. Now, folks, I own the CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Every one of you can become a member of our CSPOA posse. Why would you want to do that? Because we're the only peaceful and effective solution you have left. You can't name me another peaceful solution except if the good Lord intervenes and maybe he strikes Washington, D.C. with the pillar of fire from heaven. Because if he doesn't, he owes Sodom and Gomorrah an apology. Because that's the most wicked, evil place on the face of the planet.
I agree.
Treason and debauchery and greed and lust for power.
Yep.
That's all Washington, D.C. is based on anymore. Congress, White House, all of them are so damn dishonest that you don't know what's coming next. And looking at what they have now for Democrat vice president and president, this is only going to get worse, folks. And we better wake up and start cultivating the only peaceful and effective solution we have left. So, yes, you can join our posse at the address below, CSPOA.org, and you can become part of the solution because we train you every Wednesday. We have a posse webinar, and we train you how to be a posse member with your sheriff. And we train you how to work with your sheriff. And we train you to have a relationship with your sheriff so that you can help get him educated to become a constitutional sheriff and part of the solution. So let me tell you this story. I call it Charles Dickens' The Tale of Two Sheriffs, or The Tale of Two Cities. And it goes like this. First, there was a sheriff in Tampa who arrested a mega pastor in a mega church known as Pastor Rodney Howard Brown. He was arrested in the United States of America for simply conducting church service. That's it. He was arrested, literally arrested. And the sheriff actually called a press conference the next day and bragged about how he arrested this pastor for 2 misdemeanors. Misdemeanors. You're calling press conferences for misdemeanors. Okay? Like that's going to have some big impact on the citizens. Oh, now we're safe. Thank you, Sheriff. We're safe now.
I sleep better at night now.
So anyway, I've assailed him quite a bit, and I hope that sheriff repents because he's probably a decent guy. I don't really know him,
Right.
but I know that was a huge mistake and it was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to Pastor Brown since then. I've been to his church. And that's quite a drive or quite a flight for me from Arizona.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I went out there and I went to his church and I said, "Hey, did you ever talk to Sheriff Chronister about this?" And he said, "Yes, I've forgiven him." I said, "The question is, has he repented?" I know you're a good Christian. You regardless, you forgive him. But I want to know if he's changed if seen the errors in his ways and he's changed. And I really, my opinion is that he hasn't repented.
He hasn't.
I pray that he has, but I don't think so. But now we have another sheriff in New Mexico, Sheriff Glenn Hamilton of, let's see, what county was it? Sierra. I think it was Sierra. Anyway, one county that starts with an S in New Mexico. And a pastor in his county came to him by the name of Caleb Cooper. And Pastor Cooper came to him and said, "Sheriff, I'm not going to close my church. And I'm sure that the state police are going to try to come shut me down. And I want to know what you're going to do to protect me and my congregation." And Sheriff Hamilton's response will live in American history, I believe. He said, "Pastor, I don't care if it means I have to go to jail myself, but I will do everything in my power to protect you and your congregation. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want you to shut down." And so, sure enough, in true form, the state police come to shut him down. And there's Pastor Cooper, of course, but there's Sheriff Hamilton as well. And what Sheriff Hamilton did to create a barrier and a defense is he deputized everybody inside that church.
Good move.
I know. And this is the kind of creativity and the kind of constitutionality we love. The courage to stand and the creativity to make a real stand. And yeah. I love this guy. I love Sheriff Hamilton. And you know what? Sheriff Hamilton has been to our CSPOA training.
Oh, cool.
He's also had other constitutional training from Chris Ann Hall, a constitutional lawyer that works a lot with us.
Nice.
And so, sure enough, he told the state police, I have deputized everybody in that church, and their meeting is under my authority. and you're just not going to shut them down because I said so.
Nice.
And they're part of the sheriff's office here. And the state police left and they never came back. And that's the kind of sheriff I want to ask each of you now. Do you want that kind of a sheriff in your county, or do you want the sheriff from Tampa? And folks, we're down to that decision now. And so I'm asking each of you to join us as we create more sheriffs like Sheriff Hamilton. And he's not alone. There's been lots of sheriffs to do this sort of thing. We even had 25 sheriffs in California that stood against their governor. And a Pastor Jay On out in Pasadena wouldn't shut his church down, and the state came in and shut it down. And I'm not sure they had a very strong sheriff there, but that pastor sued California. Governor Newsom, he sued Governor Newsom.
Good.
And he got a ruling. He got a victory of $1.5 million.
Good for him.
And so, folks, it's time for us to uphold and defend the Constitution. It's time for us to take a stand. This is the year, my dear friends, that we are going to allow, either through our apathy and ignorance, the Communist Manifesto to take the place of our Bill of Rights. That's going to be our decision. And I ask you, which sheriff do you want in your county? And if we're going to commit acts of civil disobedience, a la Martin Luther King, then we better wake up and start doing now. And we're going to have a conference on September 7th in Florida, in Orlando. And we're going to get a bunch of us there together across this country, people and sheriffs and county commissioners, where we can put out our voice and our ordinance and our declaration, our new declaration to all federal and state bureaucrats. We're not shutting down, and there's a few other things we're not going to put up with. But first and foremost, every bureaucrat will, when they want to come into my county, check with me first. And folks, that's the ultimate check and balance that we're really pushing for nationwide. And how about we tell the FBI and the IRS, you're not going to be allowed to commit any more crimes in my county. None. And how about this? Who does this hurt, Seth? Really, tell me who this hurts. If we make an ordinance that every sheriff says, even just if it's 800 or 900 sheriffs that say, we will enforce the Bill of Rights strictly in this county. Who does that hurt? That protects the civil rights of every human being. Why would there be pushback?
Because the government's afraid of that. They don't want us to know what we can and can't do. So as soon as we start doing things we're supposed to, they get frightened and they do things like you said, try to pass laws or bills to stop this, or make some horrible, we're all going to die because of this disease, so we all have to stay inside. Can't come out anymore.
Well, they're probably going to do something major again, and I think they're going to try it this year.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they do or not, we know they're going to try it again sooner or later. And we need sheriffs and we need people who know and understand that in times of emergency, that's when you keep your rights, not give them to the government to trample upon. And anybody who believes that the government is so kind and wise that they can take care of our health for us, and we're going to all be better off if they do. Now, in this decision, it says, quoting Justice Scalia, he says, but the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. And then at the end, he goes, and from, quote, the crisis of the day. The crisis of the day. Have you ever heard anything more appropriate to the tyranny that went on the last 3 or 4 years? I love Scalia, and he was prophetic.
Oh, yes. I like him. I like a lot of his decisions I like listening to him speak.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. It's a little off what we're talking about, because I just like to know what got you into law enforcement. What drew you to that? What was like, hey,
that's a good question. That's a very legitimate question. I had a father who retired. Now get this, from the FBI in 1975. Yeah, isn't that crazy? So I tried to get in the FBI. That was before they went crazy and became weaponized.
Right.
But now they were doing some things wrong back then. And one of them was that they were monitoring politicians. And I don't mind that so much. But they were monitoring Martin Luther King. And
wow.
they were illegally wiretapping him. And they were then they tried to what do they call it? Blackmail him. And they told him, you better back off and do what we tell you, or we're going to play these tapes for your wife. And that all happened. And so I tried to get in the FBI. It never worked out. But while I was waiting to hear from them, I got a job as a cop. And then when it never worked out with the FBI, thank God, I stayed on with the Provo Police Department in Utah for 11 and a half years. And it was great training for me to run for sheriff in 1988. And I ran for sheriff, moved home to my hometown in Safford, Arizona. And I won sheriff, even though I hadn't lived there for 12 years. Right. And I'd never worked in law enforcement anywhere in Arizona. But I did. I got a great education in Utah, and it helped me win. And then I got reelected in 1992. Then in 1994, the BATF showed up to a Sheriff's Association meeting, and they gave us a 25-page document, what we needed to know in order to comply with our orders from Washington, D.C. and Congress and the White House. And they were reading that to us, and every sheriff in that room just cussed up a storm. And it wasn't me. I was just listening. I was the youngest sheriff in the room. And these other older and wiser sheriffs really convinced me there's no way we were going to be doing it. They all acquiesced, and I didn't. And I said, you guys, just so you know, I'm not going to do the Brady bill. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Right, right.
And then when I drove home, I had a 3-hour drive home. And when I pulled up in my driveway, it hit me that I was going to sue my own government. And I will tell you, this was absolutely inspired. And it was not my idea.
Sure, I got you.
It wasn't. And then I actually kind of said in my heart, boy, there's no way that my wife is going to agree with this. You know her. And she did. She really was inspired, and she totally supported me on the whole thing. And then I called the NRA. I didn't know what to do. I mean, how do you sue the federal government, folks?
Right.
Any you think you know? Oh, yeah, just grab a lawyer and go sue him. Yeah, not even close. So I called the NRA, and I finally ended up in the office of Richard Gardner. And he was a lawyer for the NRA, and I told him who I was and what I wanted to do. And the next line out of his mouth changed my life forever. And he said, Sheriff, we've already been preparing the paperwork on this case, and we've been praying you would call. And I said, me? And he goes, no, we don't know you and you don't know us, but we needed a sheriff, and you're the first one to call. Nice. I said, let's do it. So he told me they were having a 10th Amendment challenge, not a Second Amendment challenge, because we had no standing on the Second Amendment. But when he told me, look, states' rights, 10th Amendment, they have no authority to tell you to do anything. And I said, that's what I said at the sheriff's meeting. And I just smiled. And I said, man, I can't wait. Let's do it. So we did. And on February 28, 1994, my lawyer with the NRA lawyers filed Mack VUS in federal district court in Tucson, Arizona. And then we won June 27, 1997. And folks, I mean it. You need to get these, and you want these. Believe me, you want to have these handy in your car, in your pocket, and be ready to hand to local officials so that they know, quote, state legislatures are not subject to federal direction. Folks, we are not subject to federal direction. They're not our boss. Actually, if you look at history, who formed the federal government? We did.
Yep.
The states formed the federal government, and we delegated them certain discrete and enumerated limited powers. And their powers don't even amount to 40. They don't even have 40 powers. And that's why we have got to get busy and make sure they stay within their proper lane. And that's our job. Again, Scalia quotes the Federalist Papers, and he said this: hence a double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will control each other. That's our job, folks. We must control each other. And if they're out of line, now get this, folks, if the legislative branch or the judicial branch violate the Constitution and are being oppressive and against the rule of law, does your sheriff have an obligation to go along with them? No, quite the contrary. He must stand against it, and he must, by law and in every moral and lawful aspect, he must defend your God-given civil rights. And that's why we have an elected, appointed by the people sheriff, because he reports to you.
I don't think a lot of people know that. I think that's very eye-opening to a vast majority of people in this country. I can't imagine anybody. I'm sure there's a few, but I think most people are like, wow, I didn't know that.
He has no other boss. He has no other supervisor, just the people.
So moving forward, what do you think is going to be the biggest issue sheriffs are going to face moving forward? What do you think they're going to have to deal with that they haven't had to deal with in the past moving forward?
It's the same old thing. I'm not sure I know the specific thing they're going to do. Like right. You and I have been speculating that there's going to be another disease. Mm-hmm. They've already hinted at a couple, the bird flu or this other one that's going again. They showed one from some pictures of some people in Africa who are getting a form of the smallpox, but it's some other pox. And
I read that. Okay.
They're priming us. They're getting us ready. But that's what the first one was about. That's what the COVID-19 was all about. Social engineering and getting us primed. And folks, we never should have shut down. Churches should have never shut down. Schools should have never shut down. And most of the government that did it is actually admitting it now.
Oh, yeah.
You only have liars like Fauci and, CDC people and UN people, WHO and WHO and all them. Some of them are holding firm, but just about everybody else is saying it was a big mistake. And so we need to remember that, and remember that the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. Folks, we've got to stand and imagine that stand against tyranny, and your sheriff is there with his deputies doing it with you. And he's deputized you to be part of his posse. And all of that is lawful, and it helps build the defenses locally so that we can keep all of this peaceful. Folks, if we the people or the sheriffs are not involved in this process, there is no way this remains peaceful.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I agree with you. I completely agree with that.
So get involved with us now so that we can erect those barriers, as Madison called it, erect the barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. That's a quote from Madison. I've got another one from Madison. There are more instances of the abridgment of the freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachments from those in power than by sudden and violent usurpations. Folks, Lincoln prophesied or predicted that we would be destroyed from within. That is exactly what has happened, because our government, our White House, our corrupt traitors in Washington, D.C. have invited our enemies inside now. They're here. And yet it's because they're all seeking asylum. Well, international terrorists are not seeking asylum, okay? We're not, and I'm not talking about people from Latin America. I'm talking about Middle Eastern terrorists. I'm talking about dissidents from China and Russia. They're here. And how many are there? All we know is that there's tens of thousands. We don't have an exact number because nobody knows for sure. But we do know some of them are here. Folks, what do you think they're doing here? we've got to be prepared, and we need to be working with our sheriffs to create those preparations. Folks, join us at CSPOA.org. Make a donation. Just pay your monthly dues to be a member of CSPOA, a whopping $11 a month, or $99 a year, which makes it about $750 a month.
About, yeah.
Folks, that's how we remain funded. It's just by you. And so we ask you to support us while we support you.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm sure there's sheriffs out there that wholeheartedly agree with you. And then I'm sure there's sheriffs like, no, I can't do that. I'm going to get in trouble. What would you tell the sheriffs that are kind of apprehensive about what you're saying? Like, no, I don't think I can do that. What would your advice be?
Read that book and read the Bill of Rights. Okay? And you swore in God's name, Sheriff, that you would uphold and defend, protect, and preserve the United States Constitution, thereby protecting the rights of your people. What do you think the role of the sheriff is? Writing tickets and kicking in doors and arresting all the potheads? Some of that is necessary, but the ultimate purpose of all three branches of government, we work for the executive branch. We are the executors of the law. We are the conservators of the peace. We are the defenders of the people. And we are the last line in the sand for the people. If they don't have us to protect them, they're left to their own devices. And so we've got to stand. We've got to do what's right. And I teach classes on the Constitution, but I can't teach courage. I hope they will see the stories of the founding fathers and glean courage from that. I did when I studied the Constitution, and I fell in love with the founding fathers. Met Madison and Patrick Henry and John Adams, Samuel Adams, Washington.
Yeah.
The courage that man, the inspiration that man had to take us through the Revolutionary War. And how many he had bullets go through his jacket. He had horses shot out from underneath him. And yet he never once had a bullet penetrate his body. Wow. Man, oh man.
Wow.
The good Lord protected him, and the Great Spirit protected him, however you want to say it. And Red Hawk actually said that about him during the French Indian War, is that Washington had the Great Spirit with him. And it appeared that he did, folks.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you can't read about their lives and not be inspired and try to gain some courage from that. But folks, this year is when we decide that. And so we're hoping to get hundreds of sheriffs to our event on September 7th. And folks, we want you to talk to your sheriff about going. Okay. And we have a flyer. You can go to CSPOA.org and get the information about the conference right there on the front page. But we have so much for you, and we have so much to help you. The education that you can get by being with us, and the fellowship of being with us, because folks, we're serious about taking our country back county by county, one good sheriff with his posse at a time. And folks, this is legal, it's lawful, and it's effective. And folks, this is our last resort for a peaceful solution.
I think I'm speaking for myself. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed, like, oh, I'm just one person. I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do. And I think what people need to understand is that just one step, one person doing one thing turns into a wave. You talk to your sheriff, and then he hears from you and somebody else, and before you know it.
Seth, I was by myself when I did the lawsuit. For a whole month, I was the only one in the entire country. Mm. You know, and then Sheriff Prince joined and the 5 others. But that's still only one person. 7 out of 3,000 sheriffs. Come on, folks. I don't know what the percentage is on that, but it's not 1%. It's much less than 1%. So, folks, what did John Quincy Adams say about winning? And I'm sure that he was talking about the War of 1812, the second time we had to fight England again for our independence. And The reason I said it had to be during War of 1812 because he was just a kid during the Revolutionary War. And so he became president of the United States later. But people asked him, could we really win this? He said 6 words, folks. The answer is the same today. Duty is ours. Results are God's. So the way I take that is let's do our duty. Let's stand together and leave the rest to him.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice. I agree with everything you said. I mean, there's nothing I can go, well, that's wrong. We shouldn't do that. That doesn't make it all makes sense. And it's I think people complicate it in their own head. It's just do it.
Well, hey, you know what? I've got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I've been attacked all over the country. Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League, they've defamed me all over the place, yet they've never talked to me in my life. IREHR, the Daily Beast, Washington Post, sometimes the New York Times, and there's been lots of others. I mean, lots and lots of others. It's all over the internet. That I'm a racist, all because I believe in the Constitution and I believe in freedom. No one can point to any racist thing I've done or said. None of them. So I have to ask, Seth Eisenberg sounds like a Jewish name. Are you Jewish?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You are Jewish?
Yes, sir.
Well, then how come we get along so great?
Because you're not racist.
How come I'm not prejudiced against you? Why didn't I say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do your show because, and I always go back to my childhood. My freshman year in high school, Mrs. Greenbaum was our English teacher, freshman English. I never knew there was something different about Greenbaum. It's a name.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that was a Jewish name until probably 25, 30 years later.
Yep.
When people around us always played the racist card. And I go, oh, Mrs. Greenbaum was a Jew? Well, so what if she was?
Yeah.
We loved her and she was a great teacher. She was a little bit strict, but she was a great teacher and I always loved her. And she was in the book club with my mother.
Oh.
What? None of us ever said anything about what her nationality was or what her religion was, and none of us cared.
No, nobody cares.
And I don't care now. And I don't care if your name is Seth, and I don't care what your last name is. We're like-minded, and as far as I'm concerned, you're my brother. So tell the ADL, and they'll probably come after me anyway, but I don't care. I'm going to do what I know is right, and I will stand with you and anyone else in our country that wants to stand for liberty. And there is no exception. There are no exemptions, and there are no exceptions to liberty. And I don't care what your nationality is, your race, your color, your creed, who your daddy was. I don't care, because if we make exceptions, we'll all get our turn. And liberty and God-given liberty are for every single person on the face of this planet.
Oh, yeah. I mean.
And that means all countries. And the Middle Eastern countries, European countries, I don't care where you are. Your role in government is to protect the rights of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Not to oppress them, not to force them into your little cocoon of behavior, but you're right. Your duty is to protect their rights. And where do we see that? Declaration of Independence, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. And yes, that is a religious principle.
Yes.
We're protecting our God-given rights.
I agree with that. But to answer that question, I think most of those people or those institutions use the word racist because they know it'll elicit a response. The lower people that are just looking for a reason to be angry will latch on to that. And that's the truth to them.
And I've challenged them all to debates. I said, you can see where I've ever said anything racist. Bring it to the public and I'll meet you at the press club in Washington, D.C. and let's have it out.
Well, they won't do that.
Nobody ever does that. You know, I'll offer right now $10,000 for anybody who can ever show that I did anything racist. $10,000.
They're keyboard commandos. They're brave here, but face to face, they lack the strength of their convictions.
I could show you some prejudice by our government, though. You know, right now, the bullies of Washington, D.C., the bureaucrats from the FDA and the USDA and some state governments as well, environmental quality people and all this, and farm quality, that right now they're going after Amos Miller, who is an Amish farmer in Pennsylvania near Lancaster. They've destroyed him. They're trying to take away his farm and destroy his farm because these Amish criminals don't pasteurize their milk, for God's sakes. God. And people, first of all, this is their right to the pursuit of happiness. And this is their religious practice. They don't pasteurize their milk. Some of them do. There's actually some Amish that have vehicles and motor vehicles and phones. But there are like 15 different groups of Amish, and over half of them don't do that stuff. But you know what? That's up to them. And federal policies and procedures do not supersede my right to freedom of religion, or let's keep it simple, the pursuit of happiness. My own liberty and the pursuit of happiness are not subservient to your USDA policies.
Right.
No way. Their regulations do not supersede the Bill of Rights or God's law at all. Nowhere.
I agree.
So, you know, I really hope that this hits people. We've got a lot of work to do, folks.
Oh, yeah.
But let's take it a step at a time and join us in this holy cause of liberty. That's what Patrick Henry called it, the holy cause of liberty. Join us. And look, if you don't like what we're doing, quit. This isn't a contract. Okay? If you don't like what we're doing, stop paying us. But folks, we're talking about $11 a month, $99 a year. Give it a try, and let's see if we can get 1,000 new members this day. As soon as you hear this, join us, and let's see how this will work. We're trying to get this conference in September 7th in Florida. We're trying to get that paid for, and we really need your help. And I'm telling you, we want you to attend also. But if you can help pay for your sheriff to be there, all the better. So if he lives close by, it'll be $550. If he lives far away, it'll probably be about $700 or $800.
That's not bad.
No.
Yeah, we just had somebody watching, said he just signed up for the posse for a year just now. Support our ranks, said he signed up.
Way to go, man. Now, everybody follow his example. Yeah. Let's go. You know?
Do it.
Yes, absolutely. So, man, thank you for that. That's actually makes my heart feel good that people take that seriously. Folks, we've got to do this. We've got to join together. You do what you can, and I do what we can, and together, man, oh man, we're doing the can. Let's do it. Let's do it, folks. Yeah.
It all starts with one step, one person, just one person.
Right. We don't have too many alternatives.
No, we don't, unfortunately.
Right.
And like you said, it's only going to get worse if we don't do something about it now.
That's right.
It'll get out of reach. Mm-hmm. But I want to thank you for coming. I don't want to keep you any longer. You are more than welcome to come back whenever you want to. Just say, hey, Seth, I got something I want to say. I'll let you come back.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. When it gets closer to the time of the event, we'll definitely get back to you.
Please, definitely do that.
Seth, we'd love to have you there.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to go. I mean,
I want to bring people up out of the audience and take a big picture with all sorts of different races and all sorts of different religions, and stand up there at the top, and we all hold hands and raise our hands high and say, this photo represents the solution for America.
Oh, hell yes.
We must join hands, regardless of background, race and color, religions. we must stand together. And folks, I used to do that picture way back when, and I can't find any of the pictures. I used to do it every time I went to a big event, but I haven't done it in the last 4 or 5 years, and I really don't know why. But we need to do it again, and maybe we can do it at that event. So all of you show up. But you know what? I always have to ask: is there a Jew in the audience? I don't know how to point to somebody and say, "Hey, you look like a Jew. Come on up." You know, how do you determine that? You know, so
I
these
can't
are
even
the
do
race
that.
baiters. They're the ones that are the racist. You know.
Oh yeah.
So,
But yeah, definitely. When you get closer to that, let me know. We'll bring you back on and we'll talk about that. I would love to.
okay.
I mean, it's great having you here. Like I said, my father's a retired cop. I love you guys. You do a job that not everybody can, and I respect the hell out of that. I do.
Right.
I mean, I remember my dad coming home after working 12-hour shifts, just like, hey, this is what I do. This is how I serve my fellow man.
Yeah. Amen.
But yeah, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Like I said, you're more than welcome to come back anytime you want to.
I will. Thank you, man.
Thank
See
you,
you soon.
Sheriff. You have a good day.
All right. You too.
Bye. So there you go. Sheriff Mack, a really, really good guy. Knows his stuff. And you can tell that he genuinely cares and really means what he's saying. He's not just saying it because it's a soundbite or anything like that. It's because he believes it. And I wanted to touch on something real quick that he said about, bravery and doing things. I've talked to my son a lot of times about bravery. And he's like, well, I'm scared. And I've always told him, well, being brave isn't the absence of fear. Being brave is embracing that fear and moving forward and doing what you have to do. So it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to, well, I could get in trouble, or what's going to happen if I do this? That's part of being brave. It's not ignoring the fear. It's taking it on, embracing it, and still doing what you have to do to move forward. And it's important for people to know. I was in the military, and I've had the opportunity to meet some warriors. I mean, true warriors. And I've never met one that hadn't been afraid or once or twice in their life. That's part of it, that you adapt to it, you move on. And that's what you do. So yeah, if you're afraid, you just heard the man. There's hundreds, if not thousands of people out there that agree with you. We just got to take that step. The first step is always the hardest. Once you take that first step, everything else kind of just falls in line. It becomes easier, especially when you got somebody behind you or someone next to you. It's worth it. It may not seem like it in the beginning, but like you said, we're running out of time. We got to do something because things are getting crazy and crazier. And this upcoming election is probably one of the most important elections of our lifetime. And I hate saying that because everybody that talks always says that this is the most important election of our lifetime. I firmly believe this one is. There's no getting around that. That's what it is. So join the CSPOA posse at CSPOA.org. Like you said, it's $11 a month or $99 a year. They have classes every Wednesday, I believe he said. Do it. I'm going to do it. I mean, any knowledge is good. And for $11 a month, you can learn about the Constitution. Sounds like a winning deal to me. We just got to stop letting the federal government and other agencies determine our lives and the course of our life. We got to stop. They're there to help and provide, not to guide. They're not our bosses. They're not our overlords. They are there to work for us. They work for us. They are our employees. And I think over time, I don't even say they've forgotten it. They've ignored it. And I think we've forgotten that point, that they serve at our pleasure. It's that simple. People always say, well, we need to have, term limits. We got to have term limits. We do have term limits. They're called elections. We vote people out. And yes, I know that recently, or not even recently, elections have come under scrutiny. And I'm glad they're coming under scrutiny. There needs to be more oversight on elections. I think there's not enough. I don't think there ever could be enough. That's one of the foundations of this country is elections. We get to elect who leads us. Well, not even leads us. We get to elect who goes to DC and represents us. But yeah, it's like you said, it's that simple. One person, like you did with the lawsuit, one person started that and affected some change. It's It's that simple. And I hate preaching it, but I'm going to keep preaching it until we all decide that enough's enough and remind DC that they work for us. We're their boss. And at this moment in time, we are not happy. Not happy at all. Okay, I have forgot to do this, so I got to pay the bills real quick, but I'll be right back.
Born in the coastal plains of South Texas, Smoking Gun Coffee is founded by combat veterans that know exactly what a cup of coffee needs to taste like. Run by father and son, each coffee bean is perfected, roasted at 500 degrees, and cooled with a Gulf Coast breeze. Smoking Gun Coffee hand makes and bags each ounce of coffee for maximum customer satisfaction. With every purchase, 10% goes back to organizations that help veterans and local communities. That's Texas made, one bag at a time. To find out more, go to www.smokingguncoffee.com.
Buy yourself a bag of freedom. If you go to smokinggun.com and then go to the drop-down menu and then go to conservative corner, you get a discount for your purchase. And it's coffee. Coffee's good. It's like the stuff of life. So get yourself some of that. And like I've always said, if you buy it and you're drinking it, shoot me a picture and we'll post it. And then we'll drink coffee together. But yeah, Smoking Gun. Sorry, my back itches. Smoking Gun, drop down menu, conservative corner, and then you get a discount. So go there and do that. That was a great speaker. I like having people who are passionate about what they believe in. It's inspiring. There's enough people who just talk, for a soundbite or to go viral, to be, Facebook famous for a couple of days. They'll say whatever they got to say, and you can see those people coming a mile away. As soon as they start talking, they're not serious about what they're talking about. They don't believe what they say. Sheriff Mack believes in what he says. He talks the talk and he walks the walk. He does what he says, and I respect that. And again, like I said, my father's a retired cop, so I respect law enforcement immensely. It's a tough job. And no, I don't blindly think that all cops are great. My father will agree with me that not everybody behind the badge should be behind the badge, but a vast majority of men and women behind the badge do a great job in stressful situations and just want to go home to see their family at night. So again, love them. So I hope that was good for you all. It was good for me. I think next weekend, I'll be on at 7. I think I got some personal things going on this week that might curtail that, but I think they'll all be wrapped up by Sunday, hopefully, knock on wood. So I'll plan on being there Sunday. Again, remember to join the posse at CSPOA.org. It's on the banner rolling on the bottom of the screen. Just go there and join that. And like I said, hopefully Sheriff Mack will come back when we get closer to his convention and we can hear more about that and get some more details. You're welcome. Support our rights. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. And again, I want to tell everybody, I know it's Sunday, weekend's winding down. We got to work tomorrow, go back to the grind. I truly appreciate you all listening. I appreciate you taking your time out of the day to listen. It's humbling. I mean, there's other things you could be doing. So I'll be honest. It's very humbling that you spend time with me, and I appreciate it. So I try to do the best I can. I try to get good speakers. I know I've only been on 5 times. I think it's been on the Patriots Prayer for Network for 5 shows, 5 weeks. And I hope you all keep coming back, because as long as you keep coming, I'll keep coming on Sundays and we can talk. We can talk about anything you want. I do want to wrap up here, but I want to cover something real quick. Kamala Harris's vice president pick. I don't even like to mention his name. But it's come up to attention that he's claimed that he was in Afghanistan, I believe, or Iraq, and was in war. And it's since come out that that's probably not the truth. And the campaign released a statement that said he misspoke about the war. I just want to say one thing. You don't misspeak about a war. Either you were there or you weren't. It's not like you woke up one morning and you're getting shot at in some foreign land. You're either there and you know you're there, or you weren't there. I take misspoke to mean he lied. That's just a politically correct word from the left to say that he lied. And they're calling it stolen valor. And my idea of stolen valor has always been like if you go, somebody's wearing a uniform with like 5,000 medals on it and they're never been in the military. I call that stolen valor. I call what he did just being a piece of shit liar. He was in the military. He just lied about what he did in the military in his service. I've never been in combat, so I would never claim to it. That I don't want to say it's a badge of honor, but there are men and women who've been in combat and experienced it and are still suffering from that today. And if I were to lie and say, yeah, I was there too, that would just belittle what they've done and cheapen it. And I would never do that to a brother or sister. I've never been in combat. For somebody who claims to have been in combat and never has, again, that's pretty low. That's low class. And I don't know why they're just going to brush it under the rug with, well, he misspoke. He misspoke about the war. He misspoke about being there. Jesus. I mean, are liberals, and I don't mean to say this because I know liberals and I have some friends who are Democrat and they're good people. But I'm getting the impression that for the most part, liberals are just idiots and they will believe anything they hear as long as it comes from the left. They'll believe anything like this. He misspoke. They'll believe it. They won't question it. But if a Republican got caught up doing the same thing, they would attach to it like a pit bull and would never let it go. But since it's on their side, it's okay. He misspoke. He didn't remember clearly if he was in the war. He kind of forgot. It was kind of fuzzy. I don't understand that, and I don't condone it, like I said, and it shouldn't be brushed under the rug. I mean, if he's willing to lie about that, what's he willing to lie about once he's in office? What's he willing to do and not tell us once he gets in office? I mean, these are things that you need to pay attention to. And if this were a Republican who would be accused of the same thing and proven it was truth, I'd be saying the same thing. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Republican. If you lie about service and what you did while in the service, I'm going to call you out every day of the week and twice on Sundays. It's not good. And it's not right. And like I said, it cheapens the experienced men and women who have actually served in combat. It takes away what they experience, and that's not right. Yeah, you're right, DJ. You don't forget being in a combat. I mean, I remember every cruise I took in the military and the Navy. I remember exactly what we did, where we were, what I was doing, and how long we were there. I could never misspeak about what I did. I couldn't because I was there. I really did it. The only reason you misspeak is because you're lying and you got caught. It's sad that that's what is acceptable on the left now. And again, like I said, I know Democrats and I love them. They're good people. We get along. We're friends. And I don't think they would agree with it, with what he's doing either. I mean, you just can't. You can't. But hey, that's politics nowadays. And I don't know about you, but I've been reading some of the news. They're saying Camilla's up in the polls, or that she's, they're neck and neck, or she's tightened or narrowed the gap. All that means to me is narrowing the gap or getting close to neck and neck means she's still losing. They're just trying to use word salad again to convince you not to vote if you're voting for Trump. Like, oh, it's a lost cause now. Trump's going to lose. She's catching up. I'm not even going to vote. 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 Get your family to vote. Get your neighbors to vote. Get everyone you know to vote. If you're not registered to vote, register to vote. It's important. Like Sheriff Mack said, this is a very important election. We can't just let this one slide by. We can't sit back and wait for other people to vote. We need to vote. We need to get out there and vote. If you can, be a judge at a polling place. Make sure everything's going the way it should. I don't know if it's too late to do that now, but if you can, do it. Be involved in that process. Be able to speak to it intelligently. I saw this and this and this. No, you didn't. Yes, I did, because I was in the polls. I worked. I saw it. We need honest people to do that. It's sad that when someone says, well, he won an election, that you actually have to go, well, did he really? Was it on the up and up? Do we know for a fact there wasn't cheating? I mean, it's sad that it's like a third world nation. You don't know legitimately at this point, and that's sad. And I'm of the belief that it's been that way for decades. It's just now with the internet and cell phones and all that we can find out things quicker than we could before. I think there's been dishonesty in elections forever. I mean, not forever, but for a long, long time, and we're just kind of finding out about it now. And again, it's sad, and I just don't know what to say about that. It's got to be fixed, and there are people like guy up where I live, Newton, who's just an authority on that kind of stuff for Maryland. He's doing what he can, but people are ignoring him. The party's ignoring him. It's sad. But yeah, vote. Don't listen to the news. I don't care if they come out and tell you, oh, Trump's ahead 90 points. It's a sure thing. He can't lose. Vote. Vote. It's that important this time that you can't sit back. You can't ignore what's going on. You have to vote. And I agree with Sheriff Mack. I think something's going to pop up between now and election time. It's going, oh, wait, it's Ebola is broken out in the country. No one can vote. We're shutting down the polls or something stupid like that to try to suppress the vote. Yeah, no red wave talk. Exactly, Pop. Exactly. Assume that you're going to be the deciding vote. Assume that it's going to be your vote that'll help Trump win, and vote. That's the best way to look at it. Your vote will be the decision, so vote. And if you have children that can't vote, bring them with you. Let them see the process. Let them see what's involved. Get them interested in it. I brought my son last election time just so he could see how it works. And of course, he had questions. I mean, get your children in that frame of mind to vote. I think it's one of the most sacred things you can do as a citizen besides serve your country is vote. But yeah, vote. And I'm going to talk about that till voting time, till the 5th of November. I'm going to talk about vote, vote, vote. Register to vote. Register. I don't care if you register Republican. I don't care if you register independent. I don't care. Vote, and vote your principle over the party, and you're always going to cast the right vote. It's that simple. Don't vote party line. Vote your conscience, vote your principles, and vote for your children, because how we vote today is going to affect them down the road. It's that simple. And I've said before that if a Democrat came out and had a platform that I agreed with, I might vote for him. I don't think that'll ever happen. I haven't heard of any Democrat candidates that have ever said anything that I agreed with, but I will still listen to them. So yeah, vote your principle over party all the time. And you'll never waste a vote. Honestly, I swear to you, you'll always walk out of the poll or the ballot with your head held high, knowing you did the right thing. And there's no such thing as a wasted vote. I hate hearing people say that. Well, my vote's going to be wasted. If you do the right thing and you're doing it on your principles, you're not wasting your vote. You stood up for what you thought was right, and you put metal to the ground. You stood up and you did what was right. It's not a wasted vote. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's all I got. I'm sticking to it. Again, thanks for hanging out with me. Next Sunday at 7, I might have another speaker. I don't know. Honestly, I wing it. I play it by ear. Sheriff Mack kind of fell into my lap, and of course I was going to jump on that. But I don't know if I'll have a speaker next week. Maybe I'll have another podcast person with me, and we can just talk. But keep in mind, not this Sunday, the following Sunday, 2 Sundays is going to be the first peanut whiskey pot hour. And I'll get more into that next week, but you're going to have to be there. It's fun to watch. I won't get any more. So not this Sunday, 2 Sundays down the road, we're going to do the peanut hour, and I'll get into that more next week and explain to it. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for giving me your time. I appreciate it. You can follow me on Facebook. I know Facebook sucks. On the Conservative Corner, I got a lot of videos on there because before I started doing this, I did a lot of Facebook Live. So I got like 20 or 30 of them. Feel free to watch those. Follow me on Rumble, and you can follow me on X. I think that's down here. At the Conservative Corner. I misspelled that. That's on me. So yeah, follow me there, Facebook, Rumble, on the Patriots Prayer Network on Rumble. If you ever have any questions about anything I said, you can contact me at any of those places and I'll answer your question. I won't lie to you, so you might not like the answer, but at least I'll answer your question for you, and you'll know where I stand. So everybody have a good evening, have a good week. A lot of good shows coming up this week. You got Alexandria 360, you got the Based Mother, Political Bad, a lot of great shows coming up this week. So make sure you follow them and listen to them and interact with them. Please like this video and retweet it. Is that what it is? Retweet the video, share it with everybody you know, because the more people we share this with, the louder our voices get, and they can't ignore us anymore. But thanks. And remember, if you vote principles over party, you will never have ever wasted a vote, and you can walk out with your head held high. Y'all have a good one.